But let's say if you go for your visa interview, your F1 student visa interview, and the VO asks you that how many schools did you apply to? So imagine in my case, when I was in Ghana, I applied to almost 13, 15 schools. Those 13, 15 schools, it's a lot. And if the visa officer was, in a position where they were going to ask me how many schools did I apply to, I was nowhere near going to tell them that I applied for 15 schools. So if you are watching this, you might ask, why is Evans talking like this? Why shouldn't he tell the VO that he applied for 15 schools? The more you tell the VO that you applied for 15 schools, the more they know you are desperate to run away from your country. Yeah, that can be the hard truth, but I have to say it. The fact that you applied for 15 schools doesn't mean when you go and the visa officer asks you how many schools did you apply to, you're going to tell them you applied for 15 schools. You have to apply wisdom to some of these things. You don't just go and tell them, oh, I applied for 15 schools. You want them to know that you know what you're about and you targeted all these schools. It's not bad, and it's not wrong to tell them you applied for 15 schools. But like I said, there are a lot of things that these VOs check when you go for your visa interview. And one of the things that they always check is the fact that are you desperate or you are not desperate? Do you know what you are really going to study, the purpose of study, intent of study, your home ties, right? Have you traveled before? Maybe you have some travel history. What is your current job? How much are they paying you? Are you married? They are checking all of these things because once you are binded by some of these things, they know, oh, there's the potential that you're going to go to school and come back to your home country, right? So they check a lot of things. So when you go, you never know what is exactly like going to get your visa approved, and you never know what is going to get you denied as well. So you have to be very strategic in the kind of answers that you give. So if the visa officer asks you how many schools did you apply to, you should only tell them the schools that issued you Form I-20, right? So the Form I-20, they have the service ID, right? So normally when you got admission from a particular school and you were able to get your Form I-20, which you are going to use to apply for your visa appointment and all of that, that I-20 that you get from the school, if you applied to 10 schools and you received 4 Form I-20s, or you received, let's say, 3 or 5 Form I-20s from the school, for the likelihood that the visa officers are going to find out that you actually applied to 4 schools is high, because like I said, you got the I-20 from these schools. You got 4 I-20s from the schools. So because those 4 schools issued you the Form I-20, the likelihood, this is what I know, the likelihood that they are going to track and trace the fact that you applied to 4 schools is very high. So if you applied for 10 schools, yet you receive 4 I-20s, 4 Form I-20s from the 10 schools, right? You applied to 10 schools. Let's say 5 didn't give you admission, they didn't even give you funding, but 5 out of the 5 gave you admission, and not all of them gave you funding. Maybe let's say 2 or 1 just gave you funding. Now what you're going to do is that because those 5 schools gave you admission and you received all the Form I-20s from these schools, like I said, the likelihood that the visa officers are going to find out is very high. So what you want to do is to let them know that, oh, I applied to 5 schools, and you let them know the reasons why you decided to choose those 5 schools. There should always be reasons why you decided to apply to 5 schools. But in scenarios where you didn't collect or you didn't receive Form I-20s from all the schools, that one is to your own discretion. You can say 3, you can say 4, based on the story you want to go with. But just have this in mind, that the more you go there and tell the VO, oh, I applied to 50 schools, the more they know you want to jackpot, or the more they know you want to run away from your home country. That is too much. You applied to 50 schools. Why? Are there no schools in Ghana? Are there no schools in your home country? So you have to be strategic about some of these things. So you only tell the VO the number of schools you apply to based on the number of Form I-20s you receive from the institutions that you apply to. So in my case, I applied to, like I said, 13 to 15 schools thereabout. But in my story, because that question never popped up in my story, I was going to say two or three because I received just one Form I-20 from the schools that I applied to. That was CU Boulder because I got good funding and scholarship from CU Boulder. So I didn't bother to take, because I got like 5 fully funded scholarship, and I could have taken the other Form I-20s from the other schools, but I waited, compared them, and decided to come to CU Boulder. So that enabled me to just take one Form I-20 from the schools that I applied to. So upon all the 15 schools that I applied to, I got about 7 or 8 admissions. I got about 5 fully funded opportunities. And at the end of the day, I just got one Form I-20 from the 5 schools that gave. Be mindful how you go about this question. So sometimes if they ask you this question, you can go further and even tell them, oh, I applied to 3 schools, and I decided to choose University of Colorado Boulder because their research interest is something that directly aligns with my career path of wanting to come back to Ghana and work in this organization and take up a senior role in this organization. I also intend to set up an NGO which will look into the adverse effect of the kind of weather conditions in Ghana. That is how you can go about it. So you shouldn't just say, I applied to 3 schools, that's all. No, because when you say you applied to 3 schools, the visa officer might ask you a follow-up question. Why did you decide on University of Colorado Boulder? So you don't want to give them that room to ask you that follow-up question. Once they ask you, how many schools did you apply to? I applied to 3 schools. However, I decided to come to University of Colorado Boulder because of their flexible curriculum structure, and also because my research interest aligns with Professor Matt. And I've had the opportunity to have one-on-one with him, and he's expressed interest in working with me. So that is why I chose this university. You see how personal it is. That is how you should go about it. Thank you. I hope this was helpful.